still, the numbers are still going up actually. We just jumped a few, so maybe we'll just wait. We'll just wait one more minute before we start, if that's okay with you. Yeah, they're still coming in. So let's just give it another minute before we start. Okay.
I also wanted to remind people that it's much easier for us to catch questions if you use the question and answer section rather than put them in chat, because chat can go by pretty quickly. We might miss stuff.
And I've got that open on my laptop, so I'm hoping that that's I'm gonna be able to see. I'll be able to see it quickly, and I'll pop and I'll see those and not miss them. All right, so we're ready to go then, Katie?
You're all set?
Okay, we're gonna go then. All right, so welcome everyone. Thanks for coming in and joining me to It's All About the Wood. You should have got a PDF that just kind of laid out some of the stuff that I wanted to cover today. I only have an hour. I don't know, maybe next time I may go a little longer, but the goal today is that I'll chat a little bit about the wood painting that I've done, and try to get through the cart. So if you didn't get it, it's the Townsfolk cart 44140. I've done it about four. I've got about 4 of them, I think, and it's a really nice, I think, almost pure wood piece from Reaper, and so that's why I thought it was a good one. It's only, I think, $4.99 on their website, so it's nice. But even if you didn't get that, I think anything that you have has got some wood base, you'll be able to follow along and do that piece and see kind of the plan of doing this wood and the way I do it. And I think the more you what brush size? Well, we'll get there. Someone's jumping ahead. I will just about go through my my PDF, which really talks about what for prepping. So this piece, it actually is a fairly clean piece. There is usually a mold line right on the top of the cart, but same thing. If you haven't done that, I wouldn't worry too much about it. You could obviously fix that a little later. More importantly, that it should be black primed or blackened. That's just, I am a black primer guy. I always have been. I've never moved into starting with a white base. And I think that's why I've got to the point where I kind of discovered this method. And it is a dry brushing method, which I think a lot of us will learn dry brushing very early. And so I went that route, and when I got into Hearst stuff, which I'll talk about in a moment, the opportunity to paint piles and piles of wood stuff just went through the roof. And so I've done barrels like these small little barrels, which I've cast myself. Sorry, there's another one if you guys can see them. So I bring these, and I've done a multitude of these, and I sell them once in a while just to pay for my hobby a little bit. I work full time, so this is always a hobby. There's a big cast which is made out of Hearst, and so I'll do multiples of these. And so over the years, I have painted a huge amount of this wood, and so now I basically use this model. Oh, what's this faction point? So sorry, that's sorry, I just saw the faction point thing come up. A poll came up there. So anyway, brushes. So I'm going to get through some of the stuff you needed. So I didn't write that on my list, but you do need some paper towel. This is a kind of a full piece or 2 half pieces, and I make it into a quarter. With dry brushing and the amount of paint we have on our brush, we definitely need something to take out the liquid, the water. We definitely want a drier paint. If you're using a full body paint, so the paints, I've suggested several. If you look on the second page, I just put together a bunch. I kind of used these kind of plaster pieces I had. I painted a few things and gave you the effect of these two colors together got to here. These two colors got to here. And so I gave you a lot of options. And so you can really pick and choose whichever color you'd like. I would suggest the goblin skin and the golden blonde. Those two colors, I think, really, really work well for wood. And that's the one that I stick with. And if you're using other type of paints, if you compare them, so like the gold, it's called Naples yellow is kind of a golden paint, and Mars yellow. So there's a very common colors, and you'll see paints that match that color that have given me a really good effect. Sierra Brown and what's the other one? Sorry, Sierra Brown and yellow ochre. And if you compare those two and kind of the difference in color tones, that should help get a sense for other colors you want to try when you do this model. Okay, so paper towel, you've got that. Brushes. So it doesn't really matter the size. I went to Simon from Canada, and Michael's is our kind of Hobby Lobby-ish, and I got a set of brushes they're cheapies. We are all dry brushing pretty much, other than maybe the rope on the wagon. So the cheapest brush or a good brush. There's one of my Sables that really got crappy. You're really looking at the amount at the end of these, and so I'm going to probably use this 6 today. I may pop down to this 1. These are cheap brushes, so I'm going to abuse them, and they're going to get worse on those ends. The other option, which is just recently, we started hearing about using these makeup brushes. So I think I got these at the dollar store. And yeah, they're actually good. They're very smooth. And for the second part of our painting, you will definitely really get a really smooth approach. I've used that approach also when if I want, because I'm a black primer guy, I do go over some of my early figs with paint, or with a lighter paint, just to kind of highlight things, especially the face area. So these are all going to be fine for you. Like I said, you don't really want anything with a good point. You don't want to work with anything with Sable today, because we're going to be rough on our brushes. Sorry. Let's say we had a lot of wood in glow in the dark classic, and you wanted to give me a nice finish, but without getting in the way of the glow too much. Ooh, that's good. So more than anything, when we're talking about painting something, I think you're looking at the texture that you've got. So yeah, I didn't get a glow in the dark pirate ship. So and I haven't played around with that many clear pieces. I know Anne did something recently on one of the free, what is that blue fig? I've got it here somewhere. I don't think I'm going to go into that today in terms of playing with a clear item. It's just going to be completely off of topic. So I'm not going to be able to help you with that one today. But definitely when we look at things, the texture in the piece will make it look better when we're done. It's that simple. If you look at the little barrel, if you did get the barrels that came with the cart, they're not, just a second, I've got something on my screen here, the faction thing, there we go. The barrel doesn't have a lot of texture. You can see the barrel lines, but nothing in the boards. And so really you're not going to get as great an end result off of this. The box is quite good. It's got enough lines in between each of the boards that we're going to get a good show there. The cart, the wheels are all great. I decided today, which I've done several times, is that even the bands, you could paint the bands as a metal band around the wheel, which would give you an extra color in there, which is probably the way you should go. I decided just to make them wood bands, and it just allowed me for quick, easy painting of this guy. All right, just a second. I'm just going to make sure I've covered everything else here that I want for prep. We've talked about brushes. We've talked about colors. Sorry, I've got a couple other questions here. Is Parasite Brown from Vallejo similar to Goblin Brown? I don't use Vallejo, so I've basically done Reaper. I've done some old. I've stuck with the Reaper. When I had my hobby store, we did a bunch of kind of the Games Workshop paints and Citadel paints. That is a good question, but more than anything, I think what you're here, if you haven't, it is more the tone. The difference is really what is important here, and you can see how the difference, the undertone, and how bright our highlight is. I think in my early days when I painted it, when I started with a highlight, the Naples yellow, I would start and I would absolutely kick back and go, oh, that sucks. It's not the color I wanted. But as I continued through the piece, the end result was really nice. I don't know if you're going to see it, but I actually, someone just posted on I think on Instagram how they did kind of a wood tone, and the difference here today is that we've got a very clear two-tone, and we want the undertone to be very strong, very thick, leaving the black. But when I'm painting, I'm really making sure that I've got a really good colored base on this first one, and that's what we're going to be doing first. And then the second tone, or the second tone above, is going to be a lot thinner. And I'll show you what I do when we get there. What I'll probably do today, just so that I can try this multiple times with you, is that I'll do the wheel as a start, and I'll go pretty much start to finish on the wheel, and then I'll go to another piece, and so that you can see it several times. So I've got another question here as we go. If you have time towards the end, can you recommend what you would do for wet wood? I am painting a rowboat. Okay, and so that we're just talking different colors. Okay, but I will hold that question. If I don't answer it, Sarah, near the end, remind me. I don't know if it'll stay here, but if it stays here, we can pop back to that. So let's get moving, because I said we only have an hour, and I think this is going to fly by. So if you're using a Reaper, the Goblin Skin, or any of the Reaper paints, this is thinner paint. And so first, I'm not using a palette. This is my palette. We are going to do all the work on this. And this is going to be the best way to get the color we want. You could use a palette for this first step, but you still are going to have, so I'm going to use, I'll go with my one to start with. I like basically to work this in as my palette. Be careful that as I've done a lot of pieces, it'll completely soak through, and I start to paint my desk. So anyway, we're going to start with this. I did not. I love the fact that this wagon has mobile wheels. You don't always see that, and so that was a kind of a benefit when I bought it. Okay. So now when we're painting this step, we want a solid Goblin skin color on this, and we are going across the grain, right? We want, sorry, is that, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here. I've gotta, just because now I'm doing this part, and let me just make sure there we go. All right, maybe we'll see this a little better. Okay. So I'm going to keep coming in here. We want to go cross pattern here. We want it solid. You do not want to get into the cracks, right? That is the key. If you're getting into the cracks, your paint is too wet. So I'm going to keep coming back in here. And so a bigger brush, I think actually now that I'm doing it, is probably going to work better for speed. And the other benefit with a bigger brush is that there's less likely that you are going to get into the cracks. Okay. Now, it's not the end of the world if you get into the cracks, because remember, we've got a highlight tone coming on top of this that will still pick up some of the textures from the wagon and the wood. So it's not the end of the world. So sometimes when I start, I'll hit an edge, and it really gives you a sense of how much paint is on your brush. See, so I'm going both ways. I don't really I'm not going to worry about hard shadows in here. I'm not, so the crack here in this wheel, I'm going to get pretty close in there. Naturally, there will be a black line there, like almost look like I've lined it. Just another benefit of black priming. I could do a whole course on black priming, I think, and how I love it. But anyway, so you can see how we're getting good coverage fairly quickly on that. Now, looking at this piece, it's still not perfect. I like the more solid this is looking. So you see those areas that are a little darker. I really like those gone. Now you can play around with it and leave that darker tone if you want. But remember, we're trying to go over with another color later, and we want the lighter second tone to still have our first tone come through. And so that's why we want a nice solid undertone. So just as a comparison now, this is my Mars yellow is getting. There's the two difference in colors, by the way, but you can obviously see the thickness of this and how much more I will have. But when I get my pirate ship, I don't think I'm going to be buying that many goblin skin. It would take forever. Now, sometimes on these areas, like this edge here, I add a smidge of water. There's no texture on the edge of this wagon wheel, right? So you know what? I can absolutely get a little bit more, just go fast. Oh, I forgot to I didn't really get it into the history. I mean, I have been painting for about 40 years. I have started in first ed and even kind of blue box, red box, and I have been collecting miniatures since that point. And so it has been a long history of painting things. And I do tend to go to the metal side of things just because most of my collection is metal. So, but I've really enjoyed Bones Black. The quality and the sharpness has been great. I'm just trying to think if I've got anything Bones Black handy that had wood on it. Oh yeah, just to give you a little sense of some of the things that, so that's a WizKids Beholder, but all the pieces, oops, sorry. Oh, here, let's go this way so you can see it. All the little extra pieces that I like that are wood based that kind of add to it. So anyway, I'm going to keep going here. Oh, sorry. What direction do you paint for the swirl end of a log? The swirl end of a log. Okay, so one of the, just trying to think if I've got one of my log pieces here. So they're two different. So an open end, the light colored open end of a log, I tend to do that first. And so normally, so as an example, I would use potentially a light brown to get into the age rings, and then a very light, potentially even this Mars yellow, the yellow as a very solid highlight to it. And then I go and go to the outside kind of bark area and do that differently and try to keep it separate. I'll show you a piece when I'm done here. I think we've had a couple tree questions. Hearst. So if you don't know about Hearst art, Hearst is a plaster casting. I do have a course on Sunday about it, but they've got lots of pieces that can add kind of the bling to your figs. And all right, so I'm just gonna get through this. Anyway, and so they do have some pieces that are kind of stone accessory pieces that have wood built in them, live logs and stuff. And so I've done a lot of those, and I have some, and I can show you today how I do that wood piece. And you can tell, and just if you like the way that works, I can tell you about that. Okay, so there's the first one. I'm just going to leave it for just a second. It is a little wet, I can see just a smidge, so it won't take that long. I'm just going to start to do a little bit of the wagon, because the goal was to try and get this completely done, and I have done this in an hour. So just how many questions and how many times I stop anything. Oh, sorry, I'm off camera a little bit. Apologize. my thickness was a little weak there. You can sometimes tell when your paint isn't thick enough. And you definitely, again, across the grain. I'm not worried about the rope. Paint the rope all you want here. It will be the last piece I do on this. Okay, don't have any other questions. So I'm assuming people are plugging away. And if the textures are very thick, you know what, you can, I'm kind of not necessarily going cross, you can go diagonal on the grain and you'll still get the effect. And I'll tend to go over it a few times, let it dry, come back to it, because I really want that rich, color undertone before I get to my next tone. But I'm actually, oh, I'm gonna actually zoom out a little bit. I do Twitch stream, and I find that I go off camera way too much. And so then I just, sometimes I zoom in to let you see what I'm doing, but at the same time, then I go off camera and then no one can see anything. So I'm going to sit at that level and hopefully I stay on camera. Okay, the other one's dry now. So I'm gonna go and we're gonna do the second part so that everyone can see both kind of phases of this, just in case people are taking off or not staying for the whole hour. I know everyone, there's lots to see at ReaperCon here, or Reaper Virtual. Okay, same starting point. I'm going to go with the makeup brush here. One of the key things, okay, so I kind of really build in that paint deep into this brush. I think more than anything, what it's doing is it's separating that paint out into a thinner amount. The other thing that I do, so I don't wear gloves or anything, never do, but you really want to be able to paint your fingerprint. If you can paint your fingerprint, you're probably at a good level in terms of what I want now for the next stage. But I always still worry how much paint's going to come off of here, because I don't want the same amount of paint that just came off of my goblin skin. And so I do still usually tackle it on a side just to see. And so like this, the wheel part is probably the weakest part here because there's not a lot of texture. So I'm going again across the grain of that wood, pulling down. And just to this one, it just kind of gets me a sense for how much paint is on my brush. Okay, so I'm going to do both sides of this. I may come back. Now you can see there's not much paint in here now, but it still will pick up a little. And we're going to do that. So now I think I'm in good shape. I think it looks okay. I'm still going to come back to it. But now you watch how quickly we can come at from all directions, because this is very light tone. And I'm almost finding that I don't have enough paint there. I'm actually going to put a little bit more. I'm actually going to go, I do find the thick body paint do work a little better, just because there's just so much more thick for this dry brush technique. When I do some of the bigger pieces, I just have so much to paint. Like I've eventually gone to the hobby at one point for some of my stonework that I do. I've gone to a hobby, Rona, which is the kind of hardware store here, and gotten a big thing of paint, just because of the amount of brick stuff that I've had to do, and it's very, very flat. So now it's not until you start to see this done. So this one, if you compare the two, we're pretty close to that one being okay. And that, let me go to the other side now. Gotta go back a little bit in there. See how quickly you can get this done multiple ways. And why we're going in different directions, you're kind of hitting those edges in different directions. You want that Naples to pick up, but at the same time, we still want to see that brown coming through, or you've lost your first effect, right? And so that's where playing around with different colors and different effects will I think make it work really well. This one really comes out well, this door. So this is a plaster door, which these are big wood pieces. definitely I've gone this way, and you can see where the maple yellows have really grabbed the edge, or the golden blonde would be the equivalent, has grabbed that edge, and really makes it sharp. But at the same time, we can see that brown through there. Tip for wood pieces with shallow details. Yeah, this. So here, well, that we basically leading to the question about this. The barrel, because it's got fairly shallow details. One thing, depending on what you're working with, you could cut into it a little bit to try to exaggerate some of the things. So using just a little X-Acto knife, it's so easy to work with plastic these days, right? So I could easily go through here and go over those lines just to exaggerate them before we even start any of this process. So that would be my one thought, especially for wood-based, is just to quickly gouge that out. And even you can make your own lines, right? I think the effect will still happen, that you can quickly make some of your own kind of score marks on this. I know I just got some scoring tools from Green Stuff World, which have a bunch of different ends to them, and I'm mulling that, but I may try to do that on some things that maybe need a little bit more texture, especially wood effect, which is really so much kind of inconsistent little marks in different ways. And so I haven't yet used it. I only got them about less than a month ago. I got some texture rolling pins and I was playing with those first. So I got a little bit of extra paint on that top here, but I'm going back to here. I'm gonna try and get a bit more of this cart done. I just want to quickly look at my time here. See how we're doing. See, we're already halfway, and I'm not halfway. So I'm gonna try and power through a little bit more of this. Any questions? Well, this section is going to be the longest. Any more questions? Are people seeing the effect yet? There's not much texture on the handle. There's a little bit, but so you can see it. You can get a pretty good coverage pretty quick. But I'm still seeing that first wave over the base of this wasn't good enough. Sometimes also your brush will just when you're doing dry brushing and you're working with a thick paint, you'll start to see stuff start to come off of your brush, or it's getting a little thick, and you may just want to do a nice rinse, start over, and fill your brush again with kind of the thick paint. Haven't seen that yet. So you're seeing how far I'm getting, and I haven't really had to wash out my brush. You can still see this is wet. Either one of those piles of paint still are retaining some water, or enough paint there, sorry, for me to keep going. And I'm not really painting this in terms of a light effect either. I could, but I'm not. This was a basic level. Because when I was done, we could maybe do a highlight level on the top of the cart, but like I said, I'm going to keep this all the same. A little bit more paint there. I may not worry as much about the bottom of our cart just because it's going to be seen less. Little extra water here. just to get your cover quicker. Again, same thing, be conscious of going against the grain for any amount of water that you put in there, but you may just kind of get a little bit, get your paint going a little farther with I'm just tipping a little bit of water on the tip of my brush. And come back over everything I've done here. I think I've missed the underside of that railing a few times when I've done them before, and I noticed before I'm done, but same thing. You could leave that area a little darker just by not doing as bright. You'll get a little bit of an effect of shadow. So you could leave that. And the other thing that I would say is, because this is a fairly messy job. Sorry, I'm just looking at one of the when I started. So this is one of the Rockies. Whoops, let me turn that around so you guys see it that way. I basically started with it. Just because I saw the wood texture, Rocky had some good detail in there. So I absolutely started with it. Now the yellow highlight on Rocky here, or the yellow highlight that I would use to highlight the wood, what I did is I did the gray. So I went with an NMM metal on the kind of the reinforcements on this chest. And actually what I find is the yellow, the Naples yellow, or the golden blonde, works really well as a highlight. And so when I did my highlight, I actually highlighted the whole thing with that yellow, and you could see how it's picked up. I did make sure that I went kind of top down, and so it's picking up a little of the reflection, but I think it adds a nice easy NMM look without having to do much work, just so you know. So that's just another example. Let me keep plugging away here. Oh, we got a couple questions here. Do you ever use washes to go over grooves? Now, you know what? I'm not a wash guy. I played around with it. I think we all kind of keep leveling up, and I've started to do a little bit more on glazing. I tend to, when I paint, if you look, I tend to be dark. So I'm starting with black anyway, and I go up. And I tend to not have to do much lining. When I paint, I purposely will leave that black primer showing on those lines. I have a great effect of doing eyes, and I use a technique that really lets a lot of definition around the eyes with a black highlight or the black undercoat. And so, yeah, you could, like I said, there's always multiple ways to do anything. And so someone could kind of dip this in this brown that I'm using right now and then go for or wash later. Absolutely. There's probably multiple ways to do this and to get the same effect. And so you could, like I said, go your brown, your solid brown first. You could then do a kind of a black wash. I find sometimes with this much texture to fill, you're probably going to get over your brown again, and you may have to top it off again. And so, see, this in terms of speed, that is the benefit of this texture more than anything, or this technique. This is a fast way to paint, right? We are what's our time now? We're at 2:34. I've been talking, and we have got this guy close. And so that is the benefit. Washes, you have to wait for them to dry. So I don't do a lot of washes. So anyway, this is how I've done wood, and I've loved the effect of it. I think I stuck with several different colors. So the top two on that chart of examples, I tend to stick with those two, but I play around with other colors, and that's why I purposely for the PDF that I sent you guys, I purposely picked a bunch of other colors, just because, again, sometimes you will get a red toned wood that's nice. I didn't get into fancy like a green wood or something that someone could have painted something. Absolutely, you could still do the same thing and play with any kind of colors you want. But I'm kind of a realist. I just like things looking the way I think they would look. And so anyway, so we've got that done. I'm going to leave that just for a second. All right, I got another question here. How do you paint rich mahogany? So when you say rich mahogany, what would you say that's darker? So I would go for Reaper stuff. The level down from here, I would use like a wyvern leather. So that wyvern leather is a nice brown. Um, and then that would be more of a, like I said, the highlight to that, I would use the yellow ochre. I haven't found a Reaper paint that is, they've got them. I just haven't got them all. I have about 200 Reaper paints, but I don't have obviously all of them. And I've been meaning to find one that matches that yellow ochre, which is a very thick. Here, I can put one out here just, and actually what I'll do just, so there's that. The closest one I think might be Ogre Skin. There's Ogre Skin, but I think Ogre Skin's still a little brighter. So you may have to see. So there's the two there. If you've got any of the triads, the NMM Gold triad is right there. Sorry, whoops, little stuff on the end there. So that's even a little closer, the triad color. So that's the NMM Gold base 09302. So that's a little closer. So I'd go, yeah, Wyvern Brown, and then one of those thick yellow, so the NMM Gold base over that. Same thing I find with that dark one. I'm actually even more lighter with that last phase. Okay, let's see, what do we have for time? We're still at 20 minutes. Let's get the bulk of this one before I do this. I want to get the bulk of this wagon done, just so we have a pretty good looking result. I'll go some there. Sorry, let me make sure I haven't missed it. Do you have the same technique for stone? Absolutely. I would say that like dry brushing in general, you'll see a lot of similarities, whether you're doing fur, whether you're doing stone. Hold on, let me. Yeah, so here, this is a Hearst piece. That is a castle. And yeah, I play around with how much black comes through, how much gray comes through, but there's basically black and two gray tones. I may go also over with a white. So I'm just going to get that in tone for you. So absolutely that you can use that. So there's a door. So this door is a cast as well that I made my it would take several casts with Hearst stuff to do that, but Hearst shows you how to make your own mold. So I've done my own mold making. He's really good supporting you that way. And so this is a single cast. And so I've done obviously the wood first, and then gone through with stone, but absolutely two tones. And it is that lighter, squeeze out that paint to get a lighter tone. Absolutely will work. And I think sometimes just going all the way even to whiter tones, maybe even doing a highlight yourself, like a picked highlights some places. So here, I'm gonna hit that edge first, inside edge, both inside edges. That will be your brightest point, right? Those inside edges will be, so that's why I like to go there first. And you can just see, even by just doing that, you can see how quickly that highlights that wood. And so I'm just going to go right over the top. 1, 2, 1, 2. And you see how now that the ends of those woods have picked up that yellow really, really quickly. Let's go over here. Like this is going to be the most kind of featured piece. Like I think is the top of that. So now let's go over this way once, and this way. And you can see how very quickly we get our wood tone. Make sure I've missed any tips on painting wood effect, like a red barn or something. Wood effect. Can you clarify, like a red barn? Are you A red barn. When you think of red barn, though, how much texture is coming out? How much highlight is coming from a red barn? Um, so yeah, I guess it's the effect that you want. I guess, right? It is. Yeah, I don't really answer that question, but I'm not sure necessarily what you're trying to get at with a red barn, because I picture red barn as very bright, very thick paint, and they almost lose some of the textures, and so you may only get the textures. Um, See, so here's a great example of not worrying about this in between, and we're going to get a natural highlight on the outside in terms of a light effect, and I'm not going to go in the middle, and we naturally now get a darker tone of the brown there is showing, and again, same thing. It's very easy to get that effect, and I think it just has a quick, easy way to get that highlight, and you haven't had to do much work here. We're only using 2 colors. I'm going to do the other side, same thing, back and forth. And so that's why sometimes when you look at that and you see how much yellow is there, that sometimes I always resisted that it was too much. But now I look at it now and go, you know what, it isn't. I think over my years, I always went darker, and it has been, I have resisted my own self on trying to get higher contrast and tone on everything I paint. And so I still resist it today, and I pushed myself to go brighter and brighter and brighter. And I think if you listen to Rhonda Bender or Michael Proctor just talking about contrast, and we do want that higher level contrast. And so I still fight myself on it, though. Like wood that has been painted that has been weathered. So weathered wood, so that's why I added a couple extra color tones. So really, this is an olive color. So I think really a weathered wood is losing its color, right? You're going into grays, you're going into greens, and so same effect. And so I believe this. Sorry. So those I've got all those I cast all those swatches, and I had fun painting a bunch of different things, I believe, and I wrote down orc skin. Yeah, so I did orc skin. I can't remember the number of orc skin. It's probably, no, that's a pale. You could probably use the pale olive from Reaper. You could probably use orc skin because it's very gray green. Oh, there it is, I think. Yeah, orc skin 09456. And so going with a dark olive and then using a gray green, gray will get you that weather effect for sure. I think treasure map isn't available anymore. Do you have a good substitute? Treasure maps, I have treasure map. Did it just come out? It just came out. Was it just because it was a single run for last Reaper? Is that why we don't have it again? Okay, sorry, I'm missing a few questions. So let me just make sure. Okay, do you get such a full priming layer that fills the gap in the wood? What's preferred method for priming? Airbrushing, spray? So priming, priming. I've so many years with metal. It would be spray cans. I recently started using the Reaper brush on primer, and I really liked it. I haven't seen any difference in any quality of anything that I've painted. Allows me to do it inside quickly. I didn't have to run out to the shed. Now Reaper, I've got the Vex recently. And so but it's only been recent that I've got the Vex, and so I'm just playing around with airbrushing now. But definitely what I have been trying is more of the top-down light effect. And just to see, it's me being a black primer person, I am fighting to get the colors through. So that is kind of the big negative to doing it that way, is that you're fighting to get your bright colors. As I said, I've resisted those bright colors. So what I have started to do that kind of zenithal effect with the airbrush. And so that's my priming thing is what I've done. But the brush on primer, so I make sure I always have about 3 of them ready. My Hearst stuff, I don't actually, the Hearst stuff that I do, which tends to be a lot of my wood effects and barrels, I can just use craft paint. And you probably can for a lot of these non-metal pieces, you can probably use any black. I do like the stickiness of the brush on primer that Reaper has. And so, yeah, so that's my primer question. I think that one's good. I hope that one's answered that. Red Barn, oh, he's giving me a link. Do you have a black brush? Yeah, they have a black brush on primer. Absolutely, I use it all the time. 09214. Like I said, I have probably 4 or 5 bottles every time I do an order. I make sure I throw a couple of those on there, just because I never want to run out. So, okay, how are we doing for time here? 15 minutes. I'm going to power through this last section. See, so really, like, I am not really paying much attention to grain at this point. This light amount, as long as you've loaded your brush very lightly, you've squeezed, sometimes squeezing it out, right? You can go anywhere you want and you will get what I want. And again, what you're looking for is don't cover up your brown too much. You want some of that brown, just it is somewhat subtle by the time you're done. But as I said, if you looked at, sorry, where's my colors here? These colors right here. If I just did that yellow, it is much different than this. So that this one is kind of the Naples yellow or the golden brown, the golden blonde over black, and then this is over this. So you can see there's definitely a subtle difference, and so you can't just go to the end result and do it. You obviously get effectively a very much more darker color. What brand of paint do you use when painting a large wood product? Yeah, I'm a Golden. I've used Liquitex just because it's just the amount of paint you're getting and the thickness. It is obviously thicker. And so I absolutely, for any of my figs, I'm just using Reaper stuff. I'm not ever using the Golden stuff. But Golden, and those are standard colors, like a Naples yellow, the yellow ochre. You'll probably find those in multitude of different acrylic paints that'll be fine. And like I said, but that's my plan probably is that just because that pirate ship's going to be giant, that I don't think I could use dropper bottles for that. I may for some of the smaller pieces, maybe, we'll see. Okay, so we've got that pretty close, I would say. Good enough for now. We need to quickly go back. I want to finish now we may not get to the barrels based on my time. All right, we want to go a little bit more on. I am going back a little bit. So I got my paint. You can see it got a little too wet there, but I just kind of wipe it around, spread it out a little bit, and it's really saturating this. And so this will be now a pad of nice. It's almost like a pad, when you get a stamp pad, so that you can keep coming back to it. That's really what we're making here, so that we're picking up water or fairly thick paint that I can come back to. And so I can quickly do this. You can see how quickly it's the right texture. Oops, sorry, I'm a little off camera here. Let me push that up a little bit. Sorry, Red Barn, you've got a link here. Sorry. Let me see if I can quickly see this. I'm hoping people have got enough that if I don't actually finish, they're going to complain about this. I am J Slugger 68 on Twitch, and if you see me there, so I watch quite a bit of stuff and I'm around. And I do Twitch stream. I'm only down to probably one day a week. I usually try to do Thursday nights. I Twitch stream. Not a giant following, but it's usually fun to talk to people that like to paint, and so I am out there. I got a bit of yellow on here, so I might I got too many open paints, but that piece doesn't probably need the black undercoat there. So J Slugger 68. Yeah, so I've been streaming for about since May, I think. I pushed through to my affiliate, and then like I said, I play a little bit of Stream Raiders while I'm out there, and that's kind of fun. And usually I'm painting. I'll throw on my Instagram. I'll post what I'm painting. A lot of times it's figs, and I try to start to finish on a fig. But I've actually cast, and so my class at the end here, I'm going to actually cast some stuff on the stream. I'm going to undercast and show you how you can use some undercast figures, especially for basing. I wanted to focus this on how we make our figs look nice. And so, yeah, if you get a chance to pop in and see me there, I'll kind of give you the full gambit of kind of mold making, casting, and then what things I used to get all this wood stuff and all these the bling. I know we're starting to see Reaper bring out a bit more, like the Brindwind town, whatever. That's got a huge amount of wood stuff. I've got that. I've got that coming as well in my order. I believe I spent about $1,000, so I'm going to have a lot of painting to do. But definitely all the texture pieces or wood pieces or kind of the like the dwarven area, they really appeal to me. Just with playing D&D, I like to have bling on the table. So that's what got me into the Hearst pieces. Sorry, I didn't follow your link yet. Let me get back to this link. I apologize. I need to see if it's going to pop up easy for me. It's not coming up easily. Yeah, I don't know if links are enabled right now. I'm not. Just a second. I'm not able to click on that in chat. Sorry. You may have to show me later, or I'm not sure if you guys can post in my section on the Discord. I will. I'm not sure what I'm doing right after this, but I will pop there or watch if someone has any questions after, if they have questions after. I think my email contact is also on the PDF at the top. Feel free to email if you had a question. Love chatting about the hobby. I'm getting a little, I went to a smaller brush. I was going, man, this is taking forever because I went to a small brush. Let's go back to my big brush. So sorry about your red barn question. I haven't. We're getting, how close are we? Katie, what time are we supposed to finish? Right on the dot at 2 or?
Yes, at 2 o'clock. If you go over like 5 minutes, that's okay. Because the next class is an hour after you.
Oh, okay. In this classroom. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
But other people will need to potentially go if there's other stuff starting. So we're at the 7-minute mark. I think I've got at least shown you my effect fairly quickly. We've almost got this guy done. If you haven't done it, you do need to shave down this at the points that it goes through the wagon, by the way. So I pre-shaved it, but then at the same, and it works out pretty good. I did repaint this the other day, one I had that I glued completely together, and so I painted it glued together. So you can definitely do that as well. So we are getting pretty close. Normally I'd leave this piece right to the end. You've got no texture on it anyway. But I won't get to there. Now I'm just going to quickly, the rope, I would just suggest using something that we've used a lot of yellow. Ropes tends to be close to that color. So there's a green, oops, can you see? Yeah, you can see that. There's a green rope, a little bit more green. You want something that'll pop a little bit better. Where's my other one? There's more of a bright yellow rope. Sorry. There's another one we did. Whoops, there we go. Sorry. I'm in reverse mode here for my top-down camera. So there's 2 colors, but I would try to use something that'll stand out a little bit and not kind of get lost in that, because the rope's pretty good. There is usually a little bit of flash line on it too, so I did have to do a little cleaning on that as well. And then sorry, I do have a couple just to show you. So I went with a dark color there, just so that with all the pieces in this unit, here we go. So I went with a kind of the Wyvern brown, darker tone You can see it does come up a little bit, but not perfect. It is, again, not as much texture for something so small. And then I went again with the kind of the olive, dark olive with an orc skin on top with that, but exact same way to paint that, just as we've done with the wagon. And then, like I said, I think it looks nice to having a couple different tones on your cart. And so I've got kind of a lighter green rope. We got kind of a gray weathered wood there, and kind of the darker brown. And I think it adds to a nice piece. I don't think they stand very well. I think they tip. You got to go very careful if you don't want the. There you go. Look at that. It's good. If you had time towards the end, can you recommend what you do? Oh, so wet wood, our wet wood question. So to me, more than what's your undertone wood? Okay, thanks everyone. I'm seeing some thanks in the chat. So I appreciate you guys popping in, and definitely I'll try to pop into other reapers in the future. Like I said, I do have a class at the on Sunday dealing with really plastering, so you'll see a lot of this wood effect stuff that I will cast. We'll actually cast on stream. I got 90 minutes, so I'm going to start with that. Anyway, wet wood. So if you were going to make this wet, right, to me, more than anything, there's a couple things that you would do. You're probably going to go with a darker if you've got some other comparison wood. The other thing, a glazed median, so I use I've used it for eyes. Sorry, where's mine? I believe Reaper has one too. But if you want it to look wet, so that's a gel median gloss. You want something with a gloss in it, but you could absolutely just do that after this texture, wipe that on, very thin coat, right? And you'll get a little bit of a sheen to it. I'm guessing even a protective like a Krylon matte finish, just don't get the matte, get the gloss. And that may do it. I think that having the control of a gel medium would be better, just because you may not want to get in the shadows, because you may not want that sheen. You want the sheen on all the top areas and an area. Just, you want to pick and choose, I would say. So I would play with that. I use the gloss medium not too often. You could even use hard as nails. I've used that as a nice water effect. And so you could probably, it's very, very thick, so I think you have to be careful with it. But that may be another option. Do you like gold base? What is some of your favorite lights? Do I like gold base? Gold base, what, can you clarify that question, David?
I think he's asking about the non-metallic metal gold base that you used earlier.
The NMM, I absolutely love the NM, the triad. Absolutely. What have I done here? So I did the E-Freet with that. That's the NMM. Oh, sorry, let me flip that around for you guys. So there's the NMM gold base. I think it really comes out well. Again, more than anything, it still is your placement of colors. But I absolutely I love it. That gold base is an amazing yellow, very thick, great coverage. I think I did a monk with it as well. Really, really love it. So that'll be one that I definitely purchase again. Actually all three of those colors are great. The brown is nice in it. It's a rich brown, and it's very unique compared to some of the other browns that I had. So definitely I like the gold shadow as well. So that triad is a great shadow, a great one. Any other questions? We are pretty much done. I think I'm glad. I think we got a lot covered. I think I got most of the cart painted, not completely, but I think we. No, sorry. You know what? My fault. I should have done a badge for this one, and I think I coasted through some of the stuff that John had sent me. So it was definitely my fault, and I apologize that you can't get a little extra token or a little icon. So I apologize. Okay, thanks everyone, and hopefully we'll see you guys around.